Hi everybody. Well, this is video number 2 in our series. We introduced to you a little while back the 5 behaviours that are the principle that Phil and Sharpstone work with in respect of our learning and development and how we create behavioural change in organisations. And today is a very short video. The first element of the 5 behaviours, Phil, is, I believe, trust. Is that right?
Trust, yeah. Yeah.
Over to you, my friend. Talk about how that manifests itself and how important it is as part of the 5 behaviours.
Yeah, I suppose with any leader going into a team, I've experienced many teams over my career, and I can remember you weren't there on this one, Richard. So you can sit back and not sweat. It was another organisation, but I remember going in, and the leader at the time, my manager or the director, said, we call these guys the unmanageables. That was what they called them. So I thought it was some Marvel comic, and I went in, and they were literally the unmanageables. They wouldn't give them a leader because they just didn't need one, apparently. And the behaviours that I witnessed, because what I did, I sat there, obviously, as we do as leaders, and just observed for probably 4 weeks, going out with them, sitting in meetings, going to customer meetings, doing all those things, were kind of these characteristics came through with a real hesitancy to ask for help. They would conceal weaknesses. They would dread meetings, and they would kind of avoid team members. So they were really what I would say the characteristics of a dysfunctional team when there was an absence of trust. And those areas, that hesitancy to ask for help, concealing weaknesses, not wanting to speak with colleagues, all those things were really coming through. And my first initial observations before I started to then help them and work through that.
Wow. And we see that all the time. In fairness, that's a great example. And we always talk about relating things, but it's funny, isn't it, that we see it so often in the organizations that we talk to, and it's not rocket science. It's happening all the time. So we always said on these kind of videos that we would finish them off with kind of a top tip scenario. So we're talking trust, and you've given us a great example of that dysfunction through mistrust, effectively, and showing you how it can impact a business really negatively. Give 3 top tips that our viewers today can have a think about, and the sorts of things we talk about when we speak with the organisations we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's get with your team and really understand them. So in essence, where are they? Understand them as individuals. And again, what I talked about previously in terms of collecting the dots and connecting the dots. So collecting the dots as in understand your people, but really understand your people, collect the dots, and then connecting the dots is how can you then use that information to help them going forward. So I think fundamentally, know your people. Really know your people. Don't leave it there. I suppose another thought really for me then is to get a baseline. So where are your team? You can get measurements around trust. I mean, we do that through the 5 behaviours, but you can do that. You can get a measurement. So get a baseline measure of where your team is currently. So then, of course, when you start to then work with your team to get them into a more high-performing unit, you know where you're going and where you're going to. So you've got a measurement of what that looks like. And I think that's really key. And thirdly, I would always say to people, if they're getting teams together more and more, get them together in terms of have meaningful conversations. So don't just run meetings, have conversations with people, ask them how they are, go around the table, understand how people are, what's the mood of those people. I think those 3 things will really help from the starting point if you want to build trust.
Spot on, spot on. Particularly at the moment, we're about to come back from the best part of it. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, with everything that's going on with our unlocking plan, we'll hopefully be back to some sense of normal by June. We'll have a look at this video back in June and see whether we're there. But now is the time. Engagement in organisations has dropped to the lowest point ever. A recent survey told us. And there's some figures around 12% engagement of staff. you imagine that trust element within an organization when we're coming back now. So I know we're busy, but we're busy working with businesses at the moment to help them transition from effectively what's almost been a long-term sick for their staff back into new ways of working and everything else. So I think it's brilliant stuff. That's take one of our, or part one of our series. We've got 4 more parts to go. Phil, thanks for your time again today.
No problem. Thank you.
Look forward to speaking and answering any questions that our audience have going forward. So we really encourage that feedback. So thanks a lot, everybody. Bye for now.